Welcome back. It's January 30th, 2024 on a Tuesday, and I am back with Sammy, and we're going to do part 2 of our conversations about the Soviet Union and all the fun stuff that happened there. So we chatted a little bit before the session. You had some corrections you wanted to make about part 1. What do you got?
Yes, I do. There's a couple of things I mentioned at our last session actually was not exactly correct. One of them I said that Russian-Finland war started in 1937, which is not really correct number. It's started on November 30th, 1939, and it lasted for about 3.5 months, right through the winter. And that's where my father was. Drafted back into the army for 3.5 months, maybe longer than that.
All right. Well, here at the Time podcast, we take accuracy of information quite seriously. So I'm glad you made that correction. All right. Anything else, or is that it?
Yes. The other one I found out when he was discharged from the army at the end of World War II. It actually taken place in November of 1945. Until November 1945, he was still in active duty in the Baltic Fleet.
Okay. I guess, yeah, the Soviets would have had a lot of stuff to do in Eastern Europe after the war ended.
Yeah, that's one part of it. And second part of it, we didn't want to let 5 million people go right away in one go, because we would have no ways to accommodate all that influx of war veterans.
Yeah, people coming back from the war to ruin cities and all sorts of chaos.
Yeah.
My understanding was a lot of people came back to what they thought was their house and found other people in their house at the end of the war. I've heard stories like that in some places.
Yes, we did, and it happened more than once, unfortunately. Sometimes there were some other people, other families already living there. Sometimes there's no home to go back to.
Right. So, what did we cover part 1? Part 1, we covered your parents' lives from, as far as you know what happened, from when they were born in 1913 or 14 to roughly the end of World War II. And I think we're going to pick up today when they meet, right? Because Yuri, my grandfather, your father, had a wife that perished during World War II. And Pesia had her own story that we covered in part 1, which will be linked in the show notes. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to pick up the story, yeah? Or did you have some more stuff before they meet?
I don't think I have to add anything, because I don't really know much, except I found out that my mother was born in 1914.
14, okay. Yeah, you did some digging around on a Russian database that contains all sorts of stuff that we're actually going to check out after we get off the recording here. Yeah, we can also jump around as much or as little as we want. There's not really a format here. But yeah, let's carry on the story.
Well, the story, as far as I know, when he was discharged from the army in November of 1945, I'm talking about my dad.
Yuri.
Yes. He probably ended up in Leningrad right away, because he still had he had brother and sister living in the city at the time. And I don't know how long or how short it took them to meet, my mom and my dad. But apparently we met somehow. I don't know if we've been introduced, or was it a chance meeting?
I was going to ask if you know how they met.
I do not.
Okay.
It never came up in conversation.
Okay.
So we met, and from the sound of it, we got married pretty quick, because I was born in November of 1946.
Right.
As far as I know, again, with a number of men killed in the war during World War II.
There was a shortage of men.
Absolutely, a shortage of men.
They were in high demand.
We're in high demand. Don't get me wrong. There's quite a few women perished as well, but at least it was quite an imbalance
Sure.
in that male-female
Ratio.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Yeah, it's okay. So they meet late 45, early 46.
Something like that,
They
very
get
close to
married.
it.
They
Yeah.
get married at some point.
Yeah.
And so, what do you know of the first year or two of their lives? Do you know anything before you were born, or not really?
Not really, because I know what I remember when I was a kid. I know that my father, from all his extended years in the army, didn't really have any profession to fall back onto. So he was kind of looking for work and getting all kinds of manual jobs. Starting, I know he was working as a stevedore.
As a what?
Stevedore, it's like manual labor who loads, unloads truck, carries stuff around.
Gotcha.
I don't know if stevedore is the right terminology for
Maybe
it.
we'll have to send that off to our research department to get back to us on later.
Yeah, he found another job, I know, in a small, not even factory, and I don't even know what it's called, small business, which actually wasn't a business, it was government-run stuff. But we were repairing all mattresses, all beds, all sofas, and stuff like that. And actually it helped him quite a bit because later on in life, when I was maybe 10, 12 years old, maybe even younger, a bit older, I know he was doing some moonlighting, repairing mattresses for people.
Moonlighting, doing mattress repair.
Yes.
What the heck is mattress repair?
Well, mattress repair is actually an interesting thing because in the old mattress system,
Wait, are you talking about like the fabric, or are you talking about like the hardware? What are we talking?
Not
Box
the hardware,
springs?
but most of mattresses which I've seen, I help him every once in a while. It was fun to me. It just basically was springs in a mattress which were tied together with a net of ropes or thin ropes. So with age, with some ropes broke or get loosened up, so mattress was not really serviceable anymore.
Because you want the springs to work together, not individually.
Yes.
And that's what the ropes did.
Yes.
Okay.
We kept it as a single unity, more or less, and that's what he did. He ripped off the old cover from the mattress, retightened all that network of little thin ropes, whatnot, to make sure it's all tied up together and worked together, and then recovered it with.
All that stuff was reused, repurposed.
Yes.
Probably not a lot of mattress repair going on nowadays.
No, because first of all, construction is totally different. Secondly, I think nowadays it's probably cheaper to buy a new mattress than try to repair old one.
So what else did he do? Manual labor, mattress repair?
Well, he got lucky at one sense because he found at the end of the day after he had to quit that place of mattress repair because it just wasn't working out all that well. So he found something he could do at his own time, like moonlighting. But he found a job in a factory as a maintenance worker, and that's where he worked for the rest of his life for many, many years. Not a big factory, but it was still something.
What kind of factory?
Factory was producing some kind of a plastic utensil or plastic containers or stuff like that. It was a relatively new industry back then.
And he did maintenance on the building and on the factory itself?
On the factory itself, basically looking after ventilation system and heating system, stuff like that, repairing equipment when need to be. He was quite a handyman, actually, with his hands.
Okay. What about your mom?
My mom continued to work in the same establishment, basically, as she was working through blockade, I believe. So she was working in a cafeteria or restaurant, we call it, at the military academy.
And this is all in Leningrad?
It's all in Leningrad, yes.
Okay.
It's all there.
So they spent the rest of their lives in Leningrad?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
However much left of it, because my mom unfortunately passed away at 1962.
So do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about your mom?
I can talk about that too, and I would like to because it's also interesting story, and it's actually one of the reasons for me to decide to leave Russia, because what happened to my mom was kind of another straw on the camel's back, so to speak. She was working as a manager of a cafeteria or restaurant at military academy, and her direct boss was, I would say, quite a bit anti-Semitic. And my mom got to actually blame for the stuff which she was not guilty of. She was in the hospital being treated for high blood pressure. And the first day she came back to work, she was started at 9 o'clock, but her restaurant or cafeteria was open probably at 6 in the morning, because the young officer who was studying in that academy, we had to get early breakfast and then go out in the field or go out to classes, stuff like that. So usually at that time, all we had in the cafeteria was sandwiches prepared the night before. And some of the sandwiches actually got spoiled. And some of those officers got some stomach problem. Nothing serious, nobody died, nobody ended up in the hospital.
They just ate some bad sandwiches and
Ate some bad sandwiches even before my mom even showed up at work.
Right.
But she was blamed.
So these sandwiches were made the night before,
yeah,
and were eaten before 9 a.m. the next day, before your mom got to work.
Oh yeah, we've been eating as soon as the cafeteria was open at 6 or 7 in the morning.
But they had to blame somebody.
Well, we have to blame somebody, and her boss found it as convenient excuse to get rid of her, so she actually was fired. And not only that, she was blackballed, so she couldn't find any similar job anywhere else.
So what was the process? How would she have been blackballed? What was the process back then for making that happen?
I don't know what the process was, but the military establishment itself has a system of documentation, writing down or keeping a record of employees, I presume.
So she tried to find work in the same military establishment, but when they looked up her references and her previous history, her being fired for feeding officers sandwiches that she didn't create.
Yeah, it wasn't even. I don't even.
The records.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure if it was that detailed record, but most likely she was. Somewhere in the records was said that she was not suitable for that job anymore.
Sure.
And because of the system in Soviet Union, where the brass decided everything else, nobody wanted to cross them. And it took her a couple of years to find something similar job in a restaurant business, and because she was a manager. She wasn't a cook, she wasn't a service lady.
So she was looking for a restaurant management job, and it took her a couple of years?
Yes, at least. And because of that, she fell in deep depression, and she actually was treated for that depression. She was ended up in some hospitals who deal with mental patients and stuff like that.
This is while she was looking for work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that her boss that fired her from the cafeteria job was anti-Semitic.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Well, I don't know if I can tell you more. I just know what my mom and her sister talk about every once in a while. But I mean, I was 11, 12 years old at the time, so to me, it just didn't really make much sense. I had some other interest. I was in school. I was in a sports kind of. Spent a lot of time on the street with my friends. So I'm not. I can't really say for sure, but I know that my mom had some collision with her boss on that ground way before that thing taken place. And I don't know if it's the only reason, because in that industry, in Soviet Union, and any industry which dealt with food or stores or stuff like that, most of the people were usually getting some income from left sales, so to speak, because everything in stores was always in short supply. It's called deficit. So any store manager or whatnot, if he wanted to, could always make some extra money selling but deficit stuff at up prices. And
You're talking like this. You're talking a bit of a illegal black market sort of thing. You're talking excess stuff, kind of out the back door sort of thing.
It's out of a back door. There's no excess stuff, because if it would be excess stuff, it wouldn't be a deficit anymore.
I guess, yeah.
But people were willing to pay extra for the stuff which couldn't buy regularly.
Right. So black market sort of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the benefits of a socialist system.
Yes, absolutely. And because every transaction was cash transaction with no checks, no banks involved, nothing, so money went directly into the pockets of people who dealt with it. And my mom definitely refused doing that. And I know it for a fact because when she passed away, her bank account had the amount of money which amounted probably to her 2 or 3 months salary, period. That was it. That's all she accommodated for being in that industry for many, many years.
So she wasn't hoarding away any black market money that she made on the side, is what you're saying.
It wasn't that she did not participate in that black market issue to begin with, which probably in that position it's always not just one person. It also goes up the line and down the line. You have to share.
Yeah, and it would have been this would have been happening in every industry, not just restaurant. It was just the way the economy worked.
Absolutely. Every store that like shoe store.
Sure.
Getting some shoes in which don't usually happen. We don't always show a short supply. We all have a production of a local factory. We've got some shoes from Czechoslovakia or Finland, stuff like that. That's definitely something there where people willing to pay double for.
Okay.
The deficit in the Soviet Union was a great driver of private enterprise, so to speak.
By deficit, you mean the shortage of pretty much anything.
Just about, yes.
Yeah.
And that's another one of the other reasons which pushed us to get out of it to begin with.
I'd imagine the general bureaucracy involved in anything also was a major factor.
Oh yes, oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in part maybe later today, or maybe in part 3 or 4, however many parts we wind up recording. Mm-hmm. So this, I had a question. You said earlier, when you were 10 or 11, you and your friends were hanging out on the streets.
Yes.
Tell me more. That sounds interesting.
Well, I don't know if what can I tell you, because I was...
Well, I'm hoping you can tell me lots, because this is not, this is first-person account from you.
Yes, it is, but my account would be based on the memories of young teenager, maybe even less.
Perfect. Let's hear it.
Okay. The school I went to was located in kind of a district which was famous for so-called, not even gang activity, but something criminal enterprises, criminal activities. And most of the people in my class or in my group actually lived in the same area. So where contacts, the people kids we hang out with were kids from mostly poor families, kids who rely more on each other than on anything else. And that's what we did, really. We hang out.
What do you mean poor families? I thought in the communist system there is no such thing.
Well, there's no such thing, but I'm
playing devil's advocate.
I understand. We're still families who were some doctors or lawyers or teachers or whatnot. We also families who have both parents working as cleaners or some kind of very low-paying job. And we live in conditions, obviously, were also different for many people. Most of people I knew lived in communal apartments, having one little room, and the apartment itself had maybe 5, 6, 7 rooms.
So a family would share a room, and then multiple families would share a kitchen and a bathroom.
Correct.
So which part of Leningrad did you live in? Did you live in one place, or did you guys move around a bit?
Well, I was born on also center of city with Maratha Street, which Rosenbaum actually has a song about.
Yeah.
Yes. And I lived there until my mom passed away, and when my father remarried, and his new wife has another room in the communal apartment elsewhere. So we managed to trade, which was possible back then, trade both two rooms, our old room and her room, and get two rooms in apartment on Rakova Street, which is also center of a city. So we did not move far. It's, my guess would be maybe 10, 12, 15 blocks at the most from my old place. So it was all center of a city. And the street when I was born on and the school was I going to was close to the rail station, one of the main rail stations in St. Petersburg. And the rail station by traditionally attract some kind of shady characters.
Right.
And that spilled out on the surrounding area.
So what did you and your 10, 11-year-old friends do? What kind of trouble did you guys get into?
Well, I can't say we get in trouble. We spent quite a bit of time together, and with the time we went out skating. Way back, we have to ride the bus for about 45 minutes to get to the park where the big skating rig was. In summertime, we just hung out, played basketball in the schoolyard, tried to sort out our relation with the next group of kids from adjacent street.
Is that your way of saying you guys fought the other kids?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Okay.
It's kind of funny because one of the guys in my school, also Jewish kid, ended up going to university, getting good degree, mathematician. And when I came back, I'm jumping a bit, but just to give you indication, when I came back from my army, I found a job in a construction bureau, and his mom was working there, which she knew me from school. And when she met me first, when I came to work, she looked at him and says, "Aren't you in jail?"
Because she knew you when you were a young kid.
Well, because quite a few kids which I hung out with ended up
Gotcha.
under the wing of a criminal justice system.
Gotcha. Okay. So what were some of the main concerns for Soviet kids of your age living in central Leningrad at the time? For example, kids nowadays probably have very different worries, like what video games they're going to play and where they're going to get their next haircut, and will they be able to find the clothes that will impress their fellow classmates in school. What kind of stuff were you guys concerned about?
Probably the same concern, but on a totally different level, because obviously what we could find and what was available was totally different. I remember one time a friend of mine managed to find some shoes, import shoes made in Japan, believe it or not, through the black market, the shoes didn't fit him. So I managed to buy it off him and wore them to a group of kids I was dealing with, and I was offered five different kids offered to buy it off me right where and when.
You had the cool Japanese shoes that everyone wanted.
Yes.
Anyone tried to physically remove them from you?
No, it was a group of kids which I hang out with, so it was not really some opposition.
Gotcha. It wasn't the opposition gang.
No.
What about music? Was music a part of your life?
Not at that time.
Was music a part of life in general?
Wait,
what are we talking? We're talking late 50s.
Yeah, right now we're talking about late 50s, because by 1961, I moved out from that area. I kind of lost touch when we moved to Rakova. I lost touch with most of my kids, because back then, remember, phones are luxury, which was not even available to most people.
So how did you, that's a great point. How did you guys communicate? How did you guys make plans, or did you just have a central place that you'd always meet at and then just see who shows up and
Yes.
carry on?
Yes, that's how it worked. You go out on the street where we usually hang out, and the people where are aware. If they're not, then...
Sure. Did every apartment have a phone or not?
Oh, no. Not even close.
Not even close. Did you guys have a phone?
We did... No, when I grew up, there was no phone. We only got phone on our last place of living on the Rakova, and it was not right away, and it was common phone. It wasn't phone for individual families.
It was phone for the whole apartment, so several families would share one phone number.
That's correct, and it's actually families. The phone actually was hanging out in the hallway.
Right. It's probably not a lot of privacy for phone calls either.
Not at all, because it was wired phone. It wasn't something like wireless stuff to begin with.
No, I get that. And also, I think it probably goes without saying, you guys never had any personal vehicles. It was all public transit.
It's all public transport.
Was it the underground mostly, the underground rail, or bus, or a bit of both?
I think underground was quite well developed by that time, because public transport, the buses and trolley buses, trams, it actually was very well laid out, and you could get anywhere from anywhere, any point of a city. That was never an issue. I know underground started being built in Leningrad in 1954. The first few stations opened in 1954, and when they just mushroomed like crazy. It was really well done, well developed. And because if it was done in Soviet times, all the stations underground look like palaces.
Yeah. Right.
No money spared.
So back to the music. I think I sidetracked us. Late 50s, was music, radio, anything?
Just radio, and whatever we played on the radio was basically all
Soviet type stuff.
It was censored, obviously. You basically never heard any Western music. It was all patriotic song. Most of the movies we show at that time was movies about the war, about heroism of Soviet troops and crimes of other side. And it also was military. It was basically a propaganda system.
Sure. Did you guys have a TV set?
Not at that time, no.
No. So yeah, I guess you guys would go hang out in the street and look for trouble.
Yeah, well, look for trouble, or maybe trying to avoid trouble. It depends how you look at it.
And how was school? What was school like for you back then?
The school actually was good. What I remember and what I found out when we came to Canada, actually, when I compared what we teach kids in school here compared to the courses where over way, at that time anyway, on the things like physics, mathematics, was much more advanced and much more complex when at the comparative level here in Canada. And I know that when I finished grade 7, the level of knowledge I had, or all the kids have, at least to a certain degree, was probably pretty close to what we get here at the end of high school.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I also noticed that too, because I went to grade 1 I went to part of grade 1 in the Soviet Union. I remember when I came here, there wasn't a lot of new math that I learned for the next 4 or 5 years. I already learned it that many years ago. But yeah, I definitely believe you on that front. And what about how were the teachers? How was the school in general? How was, if you wanted to do sports, how did that work?
The teachers in school, actually, I can't say nothing bad about them, except maybe certain individuals, but that's a different story. Again, that's another drop in the bucket which led to our leaving Soviet Union, because one of the teachers, sorry, I digress again, one of the teachers, specifically physics teacher, when my certificate came out, and after grade 7, which I had to take to a technical school, which I will continue my education, all my marks in physics were 5, which is perfect. all year.
You were graded on a score of 0 to 5 or 1 to 5?
1 to 5 really.
Sure.
I don't think 0 was in the play. I had nothing less than 5 all year long, but on my finished certificate it was 3. And the reason because it was free, I had to go through many more exams.
So wait a sec. Why did your 5s turn into a 3?
I don't know, because my mom actually went to the school to talk to a principal, and my 3 miraculously changed to 5 again.
Do you think it was a clerical error or was it on purpose?
It definitely was not clerical.
Not a clerical.
No, because actually the teacher himself wrote, each teacher put the mark into finished certificate.
So what did the teacher tell your mom?
I don't think my mom talked to teacher. I think he took my, because back when we have every student in school had a dnevnik.
A what?
It's like a daily.
No, what is it in Russian?
Dnevnik.
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 A daytimer.
Daytime. And every day the teacher was actually marking your marks in the daytimer.
Okay.
So my mom just took that and went to see the principal in school. I don't think she spoke to the actual teacher back then.
And the daytimer showed all the high marks.
Yes.
She showed the principal all the marks and then said, how did
it change?
This translate to a 3? Okay, got it.
Yeah, the mate said it could be clerical error, but it wasn't, because the teacher and I did not get along all that well.
So tell me more about that. Why didn't you guys get along?
Well,
this was your physics teacher.
My physics teacher, she was old lady, and probably again because everybody in school knew your nationality. I was Jewish everywhere in school, and that could be a reason for it.
Was there a lot of Jews or hardly any Jews where you were?
No, very few, and I don't think there was much of discrimination at that time. At least I didn't see much. But that was one of the examples. Maybe she did not like me because I managed to correct you quite a few times.
Managed to correct her?
Yes. On what she...
Yeah, that would do it.
That would do it. What would do it? It could be... Yeah, but anyways, it still shouldn't, in my mind, it shouldn't be a reason to change it from 5 to 3. It should be probably handled some other way.
Sure. All right, so you got your mark. So wait a sec. You went to a technical college after grade 7?
Yes.
So that's how it works or that's how it used to work?
No, it was matter of choice. And the reason for it, going back to after the war, 1946, was a boom in the birth rates in Soviet Union, as you can expect.
And all over the rest of the world.
All over the rest. I don't know about the rest of the world. I know for the fact in Soviet Union.
Well, sure. Well, I think that's what the baby boomers. That's
why it's a terminology.
After the war, whoever was fighting in the war, the men came back, or the soldiers came back, and there was a baby boom.
Right, and I was born in November. And because of a baby boom in Soviet Union and a shortage of schools, we did not accept kids who were not fully 7 years old yet. And I wasn't, because school started in
7?
School started in September.
Oh, for grade 1 you're talking about?
Yes, grade 1.
Okay.
And I was born in November, so I was not 7 when the school started. And I was postponed for the year.
School started in the fall again, and you would have turned 7 a month or 2 after school started. Was that the timing?
The school started on September 1st, and I was done 7,
right.
2 months later.
Got it.
And it was boring as hell to me, because I learned to read, write, and basic arithmetics at very young age, and that's why we first.
How did you learn?
Semi-accidentally, I would think. When I was about 4.5 or 5 years old, I caught something which called whooping cough. I was at home for a month. Didn't go to kindergarten or anything like that. I was sick, and for lack of better things to do, my aunt actually brought me some kids' books and taught me letters. And I learned to read and write at the same time, and arithmetics came right after.
That's pretty cool. Did you learn on your own, or did she help you?
Well, she helped me probably in the beginning to just tell me what the letters are, what they sound like. I wasn't even 5 years old at the time, so it was hard for me to tell exactly what happened. How did it come about?
All we got are vague memories.
Yes.
I got vague memories of last week, never mind the mid-50s or the early 50s.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's how I learned, and by the time I get in school, when I was 8 years old, I was bored out of my mind, because whatever we tried to teach kids, I already knew 3-4 years before that.
And then you started correcting your teachers, and then you got your 5s turned into a 3.
Well, that was great.
I know. That's where it all started.
Yeah, but going back to your question, why did I do that? That explains it, because at that year, when I finished grade 7, we actually changed the school system in Soviet Union. We made it 11 years instead of 10. So for me, being a year late, accepted to school, by the time I would graduate from grade 11, I would go straight to the army, because I would be 19 years old, with no profession, nothing. And my parents decided that I would be better off to go to the technical school, which actually gives me the same high school diploma plus some profession.
So you finished grade 7
Yes.
and went off to technical school.
Correct.
Okay. Was that a path that was quite rare for kids, or did a lot of other kids take a similar approach?
Quite a lot of our kids took a similar approach. I don't know if it's age related or interest related or something else. And again, when one of the reasons I was very much concerned about that 5 in physics changed to 3, because I graduated grade 7 with so-called red book, all 5s. So it was, and because of that, I only had to go through 2 exams to be accepted to a technical school.
That's funny that red meant good in the Soviet Union. Makes sense, because red usually is a bad thing on your marks, and like if someone's marking tests or an essay, red means bad, but not in the USSR.
Well, where flag color was red, as you know.
Of course, I like it. Okay, so you're basically condensing the next 5 years into 3 in technical school, and instead of going 8 through 11, you did 3 years of technical school.
No, I did basically the same. I went through the same amount of time. It was also 5 years. It was full school program, plus it was technical program.
So it was just more of an intensive program.
It was much more intensive program.
Because you knew that you'd still have to finish the next 5 years, but this way you would have some practical training in something.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
And this was your choice or your parents'?
I believe it was my parents, but we talked about it, and we kind of agreed that it would be a more prudent way to do.
Okay. Yeah, so tell me about technical school.
And that was another story, because I was very fond and good in mathematics, at least at the school level. And at that year, one of the colleges, one of those technical schools, that we call it, started a new program, new faculty, which was called, I can say it in Russian, цифровые вычислительные машины, which means...
Excuse me?
Цифровые вычислительные машины.
So it sounds like early computing.
Exactly. It's early computing programs, early computer technology. I obviously applied. I went through all the tests, and I wasn't accepted.
You weren't accepted?
No, I was not accepted.
Okay.
And I was quite ticked off with my low marks, because I went through mathematics written, mathematics verbal, and dictation, or writing down. And on both mathematics I got 5. On with written dictation I got 3, which was totally wrong in my point of view, because I knew I had made no mistakes, no syntax mistakes, And I actually went back at the age of 14, when I was 14 at the time. I went back to administration of a technical school trying to find out why did I get 3.
So this is years later.
No, when I was going through a test, through examination to be accepted.
This is like a few days after the test.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I came to the school where we list of
when they
people.
rejected your application, you went to find out why.
Yeah.
Got it.
And they never showed me actually what I wrote down. They just said they gave me 3 because it was not written accurately. And being written accurately was not a requirement.
Right.
What requirements were obviously like any other higher education institution in the Soviet Union had a quota for Jewish people. And I guess I ended up outside of a quota.
They already had too many.
Well, I guess we did. It would be probably just rolling the dice who will be accepted and who not.
So what technical school did you wind up getting into?
So by that time, most of the technical schools already finished their acceptance and their tests and whatnot. So we found other one. My mom actually found it. That was another new technical school opened up, and it dealt with construction, structural steel, construction, fabrication, design, and installation issue.
What was that called in Russian? Do you remember?
Yes, монтажный техникум.
Монтажный техникум?
Да.
Okay. And all these schools were in Leningrad somewhere?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all Leningrad because I couldn't go anywhere else.
Right. Okay, so based on what you just told me, that sounds like it might be the school that you wound up going to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was. And actually, I liked what we taught and I liked the subject. I had some very good teachers there. So I graduated after 5 years with red diploma again.
With a red diploma?
Yeah, because my name was actually on a wall where a list of people who graduated at a higher percentage of a year. The names were
top of the class sort of thing?
Something top of a class, yes.
Where's your certificate on the wall? Did you ever get a red certificate?
Oh, no, I have my actually diploma.
Oh, from that school?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I still have it, and that's going to be totally another story one day.
The red diploma?
No, in general, how did I manage to get all the diplomas brought to Canada?
Oh, okay.
That would be another story for another day. But anyways, my expectations with the army will be looking after me or looking for me actually came true because I had to be conscripted in the fall of 1966 because I turned 19, but because my diploma project was not finished until December, they postponed it for me. The military authorities. It was common practice. And I remember when we had, I was just about dressed up and heading out to graduation party. I think it was end of December of 1965. And somebody knocks on the door, and there's a guy giving me, I would call it subpoena to show up in the military office.
You got drafted, essentially?
Yes. No, it tells me I have to show up to go through all the documentation stuff and you're going to be drafted.
But you were expecting this to be delayed by quite some time.
No, it was delayed already until the end of December.
Oh, so you would have been expecting this?
Yes, I did expect it.
Okay.
I didn't expect it to show up at my door when I was going out to
You
graduation
didn't expect
party.
it to happen like that. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, a graduation party took place at the end of December, and in early January, I was already on the plane. I was drafted.
So you graduated in December of 65, and you were 19 at that point.
Yes.
Okay, and then a month later, you're on a plane.
Well, actually, 2 weeks later, I was already on a plane.
To where?
Well, strangely enough, because we had a technical school diploma, we collected guys like me with different technical schools, which graduate about same time, and they took us to a city called Arkhangelsk, and from there on we got on a train and went back 300 kilometers.
What? What do you mean?
I'll tell you what I mean. So we ended up, there was a couple of places in Soviet Union at the time, in the north of Soviet Union, which had a name, but they were not showing on any maps. That was one of a strategic rocket military establishment, with a whole little town built for that. And
it was in the mountains, right?
No, it wasn't a flat place.
Well, wait. So I thought I saw pictures of you. There's photos of you in that place. There's this one photo of you kind of in a forest in the mountains, and there's a guy kind of having a nap on the rocks.
That was much later. That has nothing to do with the army.
But that's not the same place?
No, it's not the same. It's Caucasian mountains.
Okay. The Caucasus.
Yes.
Okay, completely different part of the world.
Yes,
okay. Is. My mistake. Carry on.
No, I don't think I had any pictures from my army until I got into the sports club. Anyways, that was a place where strategic rocket subdivision was, and around it was a rig of anti-aircraft rocket establishments. And that's where I ended up. It was another story to tell, but it was not fun. It was not a fun place. Like no army is a fun place to begin with, and the Soviet army 10 times more than that.
So wait a sec. So you got on a plane a couple of weeks after graduation, and they took you where? I'm still a bit confused.
We took us all the way to north, to the city of Arkhangelsk.
Right. And then you said you came back?
Well, they put us back on a train, and the train came down back south with about 300 kilometers. And that's where they let us out, and that's where that military establishment was.
It was just a difficult place to get to that not many people knew about.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Correct. And I think if you could get there by train, but it would be probably much more time-consuming for them, and wasn't organized that way for some reason. As a matter of fact, it's very few people I talked to actually were taken by plane to service in the army.
Right. So wait a sec. Before we get to the army, tell me about the graduation party before you went to the army, before you left for the army.
Well, graduation party was at the same school, the same technical school. We just spiced it up a bit, did some decoration. There's nothing like your graduation at university. It was just kids getting together on 4 different floors and having a drink everywhere they went, not officially. Some people brought some liquor with them.
That sounds a lot more fun than my graduation at the University of Calgary, which was a very dull affair, if I recall.
It was, but what I mean, the graduation where we present you with your diploma and blah, 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 it never happened.
Yeah, that was the dull part. That needless, endless ceremony.
Yeah.
Sounds like what you guys did was a lot more fun.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun if it was a bit illicit, but what do you expect from teenagers? And it was
knowing that you're heading to the army soon as well.
Yes, that was, I had that повестка, or what do you call it?
The weight?
Subpoena.
Oh,
повестка
means subpoena.
Повестка means it's a piece of paper which tells you where you need to go, and we expect you to follow. We expect you to follow whatever instructions are on it.
It's the stuff you have to do. Okay. But everyone else would have also been heading off to the army at some point as well. Maybe just not as quickly as you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. See, there was differentiation. For people who actually graduated from universities, they had very limited exposure to army. We only went to some kind of training for about 2 to 3 months. And for me, the reason we decided to go to technical school after grade 7, I would not have a chance to get to university
Right.
after school. And that was the main
So
consideration.
you wanted to have a skill set before you went into the army.
Correct. My parents and me, well, I think my parents mostly, and one of the reasons maybe because my father was so hard pushed to get any kind of jobs after his many years in the Soviet army.
They wanted a future for you.
Correct. Yeah. And that was reasonable, sounded reasonable to them, and it sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
Even now.
Sounds reasonable to me as well. All right, so we talked about the grad party. I'll definitely ask you how you managed to smuggle your diplomas into Canada at some other time, but let's get back to your mom's story.
Okay.
So I think we left it where she had a struggle for a couple of years looking for work, and then you said she finally did find a job.
Yes, she did find a job.
And that was a managerial job at some sort of restaurant?
I believe so,
cafeteria?
yes. It was managerial job in cafeteria, but that 2 year struggle, maybe 1.5 to 2 year struggle, was really hard on her. She always suffered from high blood pressure, and probably it was inherited from spending blockade in Leningrad. Maybe it's genetic, or maybe combination of both. Her health was not the best, and that 2 year struggle with mental problem and being unable to find a job was really hard, because in Soviet Union, if you don't have a job, you don't eat. There's no social net, no social system to help people in such situation.
Ironically.
Yes, well, that's a social system for people.
Right.
So we had to live on my father's salary and whatever small savings my mom had, but at the time, which wasn't really much, and I don't even know how we managed to get along, because I wasn't obviously involved in any financial part of a family thing at the time. I know my mom had a lot of connection, a lot of things with mental institutions. She saw a lot of doctors, a lot of stuff. She had that
A
up.
lot of doctors' bills, stuff like that.
No, it's all
covered.
It was all
somehow?
covered. For doctors, you don't pay. You didn't pay, but quality of service you get was somewhat compatible. It was hard to find a good doctor. There was quite a few. I'm not saying there wasn't any, but again, just to give you, maybe not later on remind me
Of when I was born.
when you were born and when you went to hospital to have your tonsils removed.
Yeah. I vaguely remember that, but I'm sure you remember a lot more about that.
Well, I remember a lot more. I don't know if you remember the whole story. How did it come about? How did you actually manage to get that minor surgery done?
I don't remember, but we'll leave that from when we get a couple of episodes from now.
Yeah.
Okay, so your mom got a job.
So she got a job by
So what year are we talking at this point?
We're talking about maybe late 1960, early 1961.
Okay.
Because in 61, I don't believe she had a job yet. When I started at the technical school in September of 61, I think that's when she got a job. She had a job already, but maybe for a very short period of time before I started school, the technical school. But her health was not the best by that time. She always suffered from high blood pressure. It was not treatable or was not treated. She tried many different things, so her doctors tried many different things, but I think the medical level was not at a point where it could have helped, or she was not at a point when it should be treated by better facilities or better doctors or better medications. So I've started with school in September of 1961. And in January of 1962, my mom had a brain hemorrhage. We found out when somebody called from hospital, so obviously we managed to get there, and my mom couldn't speak. She was just laying in bed there, she couldn't talk, and she passed away the very same night.
And this happened while she was at work?
It happened to her when she was at work. She was taken straight from work to the hospital, but it was only a few hours, half a day before she succumbed to it. Illness, to it stroke. I don't know if it's called stroke. We've been told she had a brain hemorrhage. And that's a result of her fight with high blood pressure for many, many years. Plus stress.
Stress and blood pressure.
Absolutely. Nothing else.
So she died in 62.
She died in early January 1962. That's what certificate of death I sent you.
Right.
Which actually has wrong numbers in it, but that's beside the story. So that's basically all I can tell you about her, because she was buried in the same space as her mom, in the same cemetery, same lot.
Same lot. Do you know the name of the cemetery?
I don't know I know the name of a cemetery as it was at the time. I don't know if it's still called that.
What was it called?
It was Krasny Kladbiще, Red Cemetery.
There's a lot of red.
Yes.
There's a lot of red in this story.
It was cemetery which was actually, big part of it was Jewish cemetery. We had actually even synagogue there. But part of that cemetery was also Russian or any other nationality occupied, so to speak.
So that must have been a tough start to your technical school year, because that was all happening at the same time, right?
Yeah, it was hard for me. I was just turned 15 in November of 61, and my mom passed away just a couple of months after that. Actually, 2 months, almost exactly 2 months.
How did Yuri take it?
It's hard. Well, he definitely was very upset. But in the last 2 years, when my mom was sick and whatnot, it was not easy for him either, because she spent some time in hospitals, a mental institution where we tried to treat depression by some barbaric means, including electroshock at the time.
Electroshock therapy?
Yes, with my mom.
I can't even imagine how they treated mental illness back then in the Soviet Union, never mind other parts of the world.
Well, we managed, I don't know how, for some people, we managed to get her into actually upscale mental dispensary, we call it. Not actually, not houses, we call them. We got quite a few of them in St. Petersburg. She never got into it low-end things, because she would never come out.
Right.
She would never come out. That was kind of high-end establishment for, I wouldn't say elite, but for somebody who knew somebody who could get you there.
You pulled some strings.
Somebody did. I don't know who.
Yuri pulled some strings.
I don't know if he had or my aunt had at the time, because she was working for a shipbuilding factory.
A shipbuilding factory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was working as an accountant there, but she still was with one of the factories was just higher esteem and a lot of other things in St. Petersburg. I don't know if she managed to pull some strings, but somehow
somebody pulled some strings.
Somebody did something too. So my mom was accepted to that exclusive treating place.
Did it help at all, or was it pretty negative overall?
Well, it helped to the point that, it's really hard for me to say, because before that, when my mom was really feeling bad, Just imagine your mom crying on your shoulder when you're 14.
Yep.
When she came out of that institution, of that treatment center, she was much more level, so she was not her usual self. So the drugs we gave her, and the drugs she kept talking, just probably what nowadays could be called antidepressant, but it was something to a point where she was always level but low, always on down level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they leveled both the peaks and the valleys.
Yes, and it was
So-
much closer to the bottom of the valley.
Right. So she was pretty numb a lot of the time.
Yes.
Okay. And how was Yuri through all this?
Well, he did what he had to do because he still had to feed me and support the family. So he was coping with it somehow. Again, I can't really say because I cannot look at the
Yeah.
whole situation
Well,
from
yeah.
outside as
based
an adult.
based on what I remember of him and based on what you told me, he wasn't a very open or talkative fella.
No,
So it's tough to know exactly what he was going through.
he was a survivor. He was a survivor, which was, if he wouldn't be a survivor, he wouldn't survive at the orphanage, he wouldn't survive wars, wouldn't survive the army. But
He did what he had to do.
he did what he had
physically
to do.
and mentally, I'd imagine.
Absolutely, yes. I don't know what he did just to get the stress off his chest. I don't know about that. He definitely was under a lot of stress himself. So that's the end of my mom's story. I know my father remarried, I shouldn't say soon, but shortly after. I don't know if he knew that lady beforehand, or they met, or they've been introduced.
He remarried Musa.
No.
No?
There was another lady,
There's another lady.
actually very nice woman, Nina Isakovna.
Okay. Well, maybe that is where we pick up the story next time.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it will be a different story. It will be different part of my life and my father's life.
Okay. We'll start at Nina Isakovna next time.
Okay.
All right. That wraps up part 2. We'll chat soon.
Will do.